Welcome to Talking Comfort Live, a video podcast where HVAC professionals go for fun, learning, and sharing, while exploring the world of mini splits, heat pumps, and the inverter technology that brings efficient comfort to our fascinating industry. We're looking for you to be a part of the show. If you have a question, whether it centers around application, installation, preventative maintenance, troubleshooting, a future technology, or anything we share on the show, send it our way by clicking the question mark icon to the right of your screen. And you'll also see the poll icon there as well. Now, on to Talking Comfort Live.
Thank you everyone for joining today. Many of you know me, but for those that don't, I'm Dwayne Butler, National Director of Sales for GREE USA. GREE, the largest manufacturer of air conditioning in the world. As we like to say, 1 in 3 air conditioners manufactured today are made by GREE. Joining me today are two of my best friends, Justin Salisbury, our Director of Product, and Daniel Hamrick, our National Director of Technical Support. So let's take a second to introduce my friends here. Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Dwayne. I'm Justin Salisbury, Senior Director of Product for GREE USA. A little bit about my background. I've been in HVAC for a little over 22 years now. I've got my first apprentice license when I was 16. Started out working for my father's company, and I've done kind of everything, working on small ice machines all the way up to massive commercial rooftops. Done many other roles in HVAC, from sales all the way up to now through product management. So I think what's really nice about this is I've been able to bring a unique perspective to the product management role here at GREE. Not just some engineer fresh out of college who's never done it. I've got that field experience. So it's been great so far. Having a lot of fun, and I think we got a lot of exciting stuff for you guys today. Daniel?
Hey, thanks, Justin. I'm Daniel Hamrick, Director of Technical Support for GREE USA. I've been in the industry for 26 years now. Started with my dad doing residential heating and air, and continued on with residential. Started with GREE USA 6 years ago this year, and am enjoying the technical support side and manufacturing side of things, and enjoying learning and growing with this team. So, Dwayne?
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Justin. As you can see here at GREE, we've walked in your shoes. We've been on the hot roofs, under the houses, in the attics, where it's cold, where it's hot. We know the pressures of service calls and the pressures of needing answers. So we've got a great team, and I really like working with these two guys. We bring a lot to the table. As for me, I'm starting my 41st year in the industry. I started in the days of oil furnaces and oil boilers early. And throughout my career, I've always been looking for new technologies. I've installed everything from boilers to centrifugals, large rooftops, VRF. I've basically done it all. I installed my first ductless mini split in 1989, probably before either of these two guys were probably born. But, I was selling mini splits before they were really cool like they are today. We've got some exciting products to talk about. Inverter-driven technologies at a place that it's never been. We have a great show. We're going to talk about cold climate heating and cold climate heat pumps and the myths that surround them. We're going to talk about furnaces, heat pumps, and other inverter-driven technologies. So as we start the show, you're going to see we're going to be taking polls, and on your screen, there's a question mark on the right. You can click on and either enter the poll, or you can scan it with your phone. So Daniel, do we have any poll questions up yet?
In the words of many young lovers out there, I do have a poll question. When it comes to the pros and cons, what is the biggest pro for today's cold climate heating solutions?
So with the poll question, we have energy efficiency savings, consistent comfort throughout the space, smart control options, environmentally friendly, they're durable, easy to install and troubleshoot. Do you have access to a good knowledge base, or other, something you can specify?
We do have the question number 2 poll, and don't forget to put click the icon and put your answers in there. What myth is most harmful to our heating industry today? And under that, we have bigger is better, wait until a system breaks down before replacing, geothermal offers the biggest money savings, heat pumps require backup heat. All contractors are the same. It's easy enough to do it yourself, and any others that you may have, and please specify. And Justin?
Yeah, finally, we have a third poll question. This is more of a precursor that's leading into our next show about electrification and decarbonization. And we want to know, from a business perspective, are you excited about the regulatory push away from gas? And yes, no, or do you think it's still too early to tell? So we're interested to hear all your answers to these poll questions. Please log in, let us know, and we'll get back to the results later on in the show. Dwayne?
So yes, let's keep these questions coming. We really want to hear your questions, and we want to be able to comment based on all of our experiences. All of us here have been selling inverter heat pumps for a long time, cold climate heat pumps for quite a long time. And I think the thing that we want to talk about and stress is that with GREE, when it comes to cold climate heating, nobody can touch the performances we have. And so put those questions in the poll, and let's move on, and we'll get ready to answer some of them.
We're going to a tech talk. So roll it.
Donnie, Daniel Hamrick, good to meet you. Thank you for being on Tech Talk with us today. You want to take us through the booth and show us what you got?
One of the focuses for Rectorseal is in the ductless product category. Everything from line set covers to pumps to switches to mounting, anything that your customers would need on a mini split or VR project, we've got something for them.
Excellent. Thank you, Donnie.
Anytime you hang a unit on a wall and you have to remove the condensate where gravity isn't an option, we've got a variety of ones. So this is what we call a split level. This device would mount inside the indoor air handler, and then the pump would mount remotely, therefore split level. This one, small enough that if you have room in the back, both of the pump and the float can be mounted in the back. Our most popular pump last year, it hangs below the unit. So if this were the indoor unit, this would mount right underneath it. Okay, easy to install, easy to service. What we're introducing today at AHR, a Silent Plus, a underneath mount pump that is true variable speed. It's an inverter-driven pump, so it recognizes the water and speeds up or slows down depending on the amount of water in the tank. Nothing to get stuck, nothing to get clogged. It's 19 decibels at full speed. Super quiet, super efficient. If you had a left-hand drain, you go this way, right-hand drain, that way.
I like that it's sleek, and also don't forget 1 and 3 is GREE, so make sure to connect the condensate pump to 1 and 3 and don't connect it to the communication terminal 2.
The other product that we always recommend on mini splits is our safety switch. If the drain line does clog, it will shut the unit off, protect the walls, protect the floors. We got a specific wiring diagram for GREE that we show the contractors, and you guys can provide as well.
All right, so what else have you got for us today, Donnie?
This is a simple surge protector. It's got an MOV, it's got a fuse, which makes it UL approved.
In which terminals do you connect this one to on the outdoor unit? L1, L2?
Yeah, it's main power. This is 230 volt main power. If the contractor wants to save a step, we've got it pre-mounted in the disconnect box for them. And now all the contractor has to do is wire up his disconnect like he normally would, and he's already got a surge protector built in.
Making it easier for the contractor to have everything that they need to get the job complete.
Surge protection is one thing, but really the thing that hurts compressors is over voltage and under voltage. This is a voltage monitoring device. The contractor programs the voltage that equipment wants to see, and then he pre-programs how long he wants it to be off. When it sees low voltage, it shuts the unit down, waits. If voltage is restored, then the unit comes back on. It's automatic reset. It records every event that happens. Look at the device and know that it's failed in brownout X amount of times. What that does to the homeowner is it lets them know you've protected their outdoor unit, and they may want to call the utility company and say, hey, we may have an issue. This kit takes the place of the disconnect, the surge protector, and the VRM kit. It's a one-stop shop right here.
Very interesting product you have there, Donnie.
Excellent. Flaring. We've removed the need to flare. It's got a built-in flare on this product. You take the male fitting, torque it to the specification. We're going to cut the copper. We're going to deburr it. We're going to clean the outside, and then we're just going to push it in. And that's all you got to do.
You're not altering the manufacturer flares.
Correct.
You're able to install this product without having to cut off the flares so that you're not messing with my GREE product.
If they do want to create a flare, one of the things that we recommend This little gasket here helps fill in any micro cracks that might be in the copper or any distortions in the copper. It helps seal it.
I've used them before installing a flex system, and I noticed that kind of clips on.
When you push it on, there is a little groove here, and it will grab a hold and hold it. So you can take it, and then you can get your copper fitting and put it on and then tighten the nut.
You don't have to hold it there in place while you're installing the flare nut.
Exactly.
Thank you, Donnie.
Yep.
One of the biggest questions we get is, how do you clean the system?
The coils have more sensors in them than your traditional unitary system. Coil cleaners will eat away at the metal ever so much, and when you have a thermistor that gets eaten away, then that thermistor now gives you an error code, and now you've got a service call. We've got a product called Dissolve. It's safe on metal, and it comes in a kit for your contractors. We've got a bag that would go up against the wall, and we've got the chemicals and everything in here for them.
What else do you have for us today, Donnie?
I want to bring in my good friend Craig over here.
Duct strip is the only mini-split cable that was designed, engineered, and manufactured for the intended application of wiring up outdoor condensing unit to the indoor head. All other cables are repurposed. So duct strip is the only cable. There's actually 4 cables webbed together, separating the AC power from the DC control. So we don't have any error code issues.
And what's the voltage rating on this wire?
600 volt cable, 14 gauge stranded, 15 amps maximum.
Thank you for coming over, Cable Guy. It was great to meet you. So, Donnie, how has your experience been using these products on the GREE system?
We do have contractors that report into us. They love the products when they're used with GREE. I know we have some stuff in your lab, the surge protection, some of the stands, so if they do want to come and touch it and feel it, they're able to come and do that.
Thank you for your time today, Donnie.
Anytime.
At GREE, we're by your side.
That was great, Daniel. Interesting story from our friends at Rectorseal. I want to thank Donnie King at Rectorseal. We did a case study in Ohio, and Rectorseal provided for us the Bigfoot stand, the surge protectors, the disconnect with the surge protector that he highlighted. They provided that for us. Great partners and we'll talk a little bit later about this case study we did in Ohio of a oil boiler replacement. And so now let's get to the pros and cons and myths of heating. So let's first take a look at the polls. Daniel, what are you seeing?
Oh, thanks, Dwayne. So what we're seeing for question 1, and just to remind you, what is the biggest pro for today's cold climate heating solutions? 70% answered energy efficiency savings, and then 20% answered consistent comfort through the space. I think we can all agree that that's important. And then ease of installation and troubleshooting. That's a big one for me personally, but the customer, the end user may not care too much about that. So
that's interesting.
I'll turn it over to Justin and, talk about energy efficiency, since that's the highest poll that we have.
Yeah, that's really interesting on the results. I thought more people would kind of pick, something more geared towards the consistent comfort for the space. I know that's very important for homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
But as we all know, with this push for electrification and decarbonization, energy efficiency savings is going to become much more important as we move throughout the years. Probably power costs are going to go up. So people will definitely want to focus in on those energy efficiency savings. And then also we have to think about not just what we're spending per kW in electricity, but, as we move the grid more towards full electrification, is it really prepared for that? And I think most people would answer no. So having those inverter-driven units that draw less power, have the soft start feature and all that, it's going to be very, very important to help us get through this upcoming transformation to decarbonization.
Good points. So talking to our tech guy a little bit, you point out a good point there, Justin, about protecting the grid, and the inverters are all soft start. So Daniel, I'm going to put you on the spot. Our 3-ton flex heat pump, starting amps on that would be what?
Oh gosh, starting amps is going to be like 1 amp, and basically 0. It's going to start off, and then it's going to, ramp up very, very slowly. Another interesting point to that, Dwayne, is, and I get this question all the time, I've got somebody on the phone and they're starting the unit up and they're asking me what the time delay is on it. And the answer to that is that it's a random time delay. So it could be right away. It could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And that's all designed for that soft start so that there's less pull on the grid. If there was a power outage and then all the systems started back up, you're going to have less draw on the grid.
Right. And so, Justin, being the product expert, you've had a lot of experience. Conventional 3-ton heat pump, when it starts up, what kind of amps are going to draw it start up?
Well, it's going to draw, basically you got a single stage or 2-stage compressor. When it starts up, it's going to be pulling lock rotor amps. So you're looking, depending on the size, anywhere from 30 to 50, 60 amps, right? It's a major difference what the inverter driven equipment does versus the old traditional equipment. I mean, I think having been in the industry for a long time, I think we all know when we used to install those single stage pieces of equipment in a house and maybe the electrical wasn't all that great. When that thing kicked on, all the lights in the house would kind of dim and brown out a little bit. You don't have that with these soft start inverter pieces of equipment.
And soft start's going to also mean longer life on the compressors, I would have to think. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Certainly.
Longer life on the compressors, just a quiet, efficient, low energy cost of operation, just a overall a great improvement to the industry. And that's one of the things that excites me about inverters is that it's the time to come. Its time is now as the industry starts to change. So great discussion, great response to the poll there. So let's move on to the next one is on question 2. Daniel, where are we at on the question 2 on the poll?
So question 2, just to remind everyone, what myth is most harmful to our heating industry today? And, I really like talking about this because, it's heating and air is in my blood. I learned heating and air from my dad. It's just a very special industry to me. And, so the answers on the polls we had for those, it's easy enough to do it yourself, 40%. And then all contractors are the same. We got 30%. Bigger is better, 20%. And then geothermal offers the biggest money savings, 10%. So, easy enough to do it yourself being that, that's the number one, 40%. Dwayne, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that shows you that a lot of the folks that are on the call have experienced, we know that there's a DIY market out there and there always will be to some extent. But I think for all of us here, what we see is the effects of thinking this is a simple product. This requires, some training, licensed contractors. So what that says to me is that, we from the professional side, we have professionals that have experienced that, hey, this is the advertising doesn't always meet what the market's showing, that there is definitely a need with this product to know what you're doing. And some other ones, it looks to me, are all contractors the same. I think that is probably, to me, another telling thing is that's why we have the GREE Select Dealer Program. We've got the best of the best in the Select Dealer Program. When you say that, that they commit to be a dealer, and I think that's a difference between a lot of dealers. Are they committed to learning the technology and understanding it?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Dwayne. I like that. Committed to learning the technology and understanding it. A lot of contractors that call us, they're unsure about the equipment. They call us because they're unfamiliar with it, and walking them through from the beginning to the end, if they're troubleshooting something or if they're just there installing it and they have some questions about it. And once we're done with the call, they feel more comfortable with it. It's nothing to be scared of. It's still refrigeration. It's still heating and cooling. So Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just talking about all contractors are the same and the differentiation between those who actually invest in training their people and those who don't. As we all know, there's a major labor shortage in this industry, and there will continue to be a labor shortage in this industry. And so those companies who actually take the time to invest in training and help out their people and try to lift them up, those are the companies that are going to have a better talent, and they're going to retain that talent longer. So those are the contractors that are probably going to stand out in their respective markets and differentiate themselves from those other contractors. So when people think all contractors are the same, we know that's not true. And the people who are making those strides to invest in their people, those are the people who are kind of pulling away from the pack.
Yeah, I think I think the other thing too is, as we look at the industry and, this equipment is long, it's durable. It's going to last long. When it's installed right, this equipment lasts a long time. When it prematurely fails, the consumer may have saved a little money going with a lower cost contractor, but sometimes the cost of ownership is really more than just that initial savings. And so, as if you've seen any of our advertising with GREE over the last year, we've kind of picked up the tagline, GREE, we're by your side. And it's really to kind of emphasize that we really want to help the contractor. One of the things that our company has done is put the QR code on every one of our units, that when you scan that QR code, the contractors are out there in the field, they can go right to they've got a question in the field. And, the best contractors have the technology. They can get you right on the job and they can get you the answers. And so I think that the myth that everybody's the same is really not that. That's a telling to me that shows that we're on the right thing with what contractors are looking at. But looking at the next one, bigger is better. Justin, what do you have to say about that one?
That's absolutely a huge myth, and it is very harmful, not only for the homeowner's comfort and their energy bills, but just everybody in general in the industry. And it's something, and I hate to pick on people like you, Dwayne, but the older contractors are really kind of stuck in this, where, they think they got to put a heat kit in everything. It's, I've always installed 3 tons, always put in 15 kW heat kits. Well, that's 4 tons of heat in a 3-ton system. And well, did you do your heat load? Do we know exactly how much, heat or cooling do we need? So there's the major myth that bigger is always better, because it's not. I think we've got a couple of slides coming up talking about heat capacities and design conditions and all that. But once we get to that, we'll kind of really drive the point home. But bigger is not better. You got to size the system for your application.
I think we probably wanted one of our future talking conference. Let's really focus on this bigger is better thing and really drill down on that, because you bring up a good point about applying auxiliary heaters, but also bigger is better as it comes to the cooling side. We'll get complaints in the South markets where humidity's high that maybe we're not getting full dehumidification. And when you're using an inverter product, it's important to size it correctly for, really look at the capacities, because, nominal size of maybe 1 ton, we have 1 ton rated ductless units that'll produce almost 18,000 BTUs of cooling. So I think it's bigger is better. That's, like you said, picking on us old guys. We kind of had a myth that if it fit through the door, we could install it. So now we have to really kind of look at, sizing with the efficiency changes and everything that's changing. That bigger is better myth, we need to drill down on that, because when sizing inverters, bigger oversizing can really cause an issue. And it's, not only with comfort, but also you won't see the utility savings.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with the humidity issues. If you oversize your cooling, the system's going to short cycle. If you've got a single or 2-stage piece of equipment, you're going to have mold and other issues going on there. And then with the inverter piece of equipment, it's going to keep running, and it's just going to overcool the space, and you're going to freeze the people out. So sizing it is very, very important.
So the last comment and poll question was, geothermal offers the biggest money savings. So Justin, you do the analysis and energy. So kind of why don't you lead off the discussion on that one? Tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because on paper, if you look at geothermal, they have some of the highest published coefficients of performance on heating. For example, they can go anywhere from 3 to 7, versus most of the inverter pieces of equipment, they're going to range from about 2 to 4. So on paper, as this equipment runs, it may be using less electricity, but when you talk about money savings, you have to look at it as a whole, from point of installation to end of life. Is it going to pay you back? And I think, as we all know, geothermal equipment's very expensive versus the air-to-air heat pumps. They're very expensive to install that equipment, because you have to have a loop. Either you're building a pond to have the pond loop. Are you drilling wells, to do the in-ground loop, so on and so forth. So that adds thousands upon thousands of dollars to the system installation that you don't have to do with an air-to-air heat pump. So while maybe on paper, theoretically, you could save more money running the geothermal piece of equipment, the total time to payback may not be there in that 10 to 15 year lifespan of the system if you're paying tens of thousands of dollars up front just to install the piece of equipment.
Good points. Very good points. And, so like I said earlier, sometimes you pay a lot up front, but you're really going to get your money back. You've also got additional maintenance with the loop, risk of somebody hitting the loop or damaging the loop or ground shifting. Do you have the right dirt or right soils to get the transfer? There's just a lot of difference that with the air-to-air heat pump, you really know where you're at and ease of installation at the beginning and not quite the investment, I think is what you're saying. So great points. So I like the fact that everybody really understands that we don't really need basically we're not really needing to have auxiliary heaters. I think we've kind of gotten that point across. Nobody commented on the poll. That's good to see. So audience, let's keep those questions coming. So let's keep those questions coming in. Before we wrap up this segment, if you remember earlier, we mentioned Rectorseal helping us on the job. We did well. We interviewed them, and we really think that they did a great job for us. So, as we move on, as we move on there, let's talk about where we're at and where we're at in the show. So we've talked about, we went through poll number 1 and 2, and we went through the points. And so let's keep those questions coming in. And so as we move on, let's talk about comfort. So Daniel, where are we at? We have any more questions we need to cover?
So we do have a comment, Dwayne, and I would really appreciate your experience with this since you've been, in the mini split inverter industry so long. You mentioned you installed a mini split in 1989, was it?
Yes, it was.
I was just learning to walk. And so we had a question or comment come in. Why does GREE sell systems through Home Depot? This subject's been brought up as an option by homeowners, and when they see the reviews about GREE on the website, it doesn't make it easy for this particular person to sell the product. And selling through HD makes it seem like a DIY. So just wanted to see your thoughts on that, Dwayne.
So, the strategy with it is, if you look at the play of Home Depot, we're talking about Home Depot specifically, or the big box stores, is, this part of the market exists, and it's something that you have to try to manage. You're not going to reduce it. And so basically the way that's done, it's managed pretty tightly. But what it does do for us, and why we really have elected to do that, is look how many stores Home Depot has nationwide. GREE, 1 in 3 of brands are GREE, as we've said earlier, but the GREE brand, although we're number 4 market share, we're still really well known. So what we like to do as a business by partnering with them was to help to drive the GREE brand. And so we sell significantly amount, not a lot of it through Home Depot, but what it does do is gets a lot of Google search, gets a lot of play for the GREE brand. And most of those that are sold, they end up hiring a licensed contractor to install them. So the cost of the equipment is one, but you also have the installation cost on top of it. So we see it in the Home Depot partnership, especially with the Home Depot installers. It's actually been a big win for them because it leads to other business. And if you look at the cost of lead generation, it's a very low cost of bringing a lead to a customer. And so overall, the win is driving the GREE brand, and we have a controlled environment versus just anybody throwing it up on a website.
I'll make
Thank you,
Dwayne.
Yeah,
I had a final comment about that. I think we all know in the upcoming years, probably 2025, we're going to have a switch over to a new refrigerant, has a lower global warming potential, and all of those refrigerants are flammable. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what these flammable refrigerants do to that whole DIY market. Don't know of too many homeowners who are really qualified to be messing around with things like 454, R32, or even R290 propane. So we'll just have to wait and see what the regulations do to the DIY market.
And if you're installing it legally, you have to have an EPA certification to handle refrigerant. Also, there was a question a little bit earlier, specifically towards the flex and the voltage, the low voltage wiring. I'd like to just let them know that we will reach out directly to discuss that after the show. And so I believe we have a little bit of discussion about the slide you had for the backup heat. Justin, if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this goes back to our comment that, you know, bigger is better. Well, that's obviously a myth. So here we're looking at our multi-pro product line. This is all showing at -4 degrees Fahrenheit. So for most of the United States, this is going to be pretty good. So for example, here I'm in Dallas. Coldest design conditions for a system here is going to probably be 0. So this more than covers me here in Dallas. So just want to point out our standard multi-pro at -4 degrees. Now this is a 4-ton. It's still putting out 34,000 BTUs of heat. So just shy of 3 tons. Our multi-pro ultra, that model can put out 54,000 BTUs of heat at -4 degrees. So if I go in and my house is sized for 4 tons of cooling, 4 tons of heat, you know, at the coldest possible conditions I can get here in Dallas, you know, 0, do I need any electric backup heat? Well, if I go with the multi-pro ultra, absolutely not, because I've got almost 5 tons of heat, right? So again, we really want to point out to people, it's very, very important to do your heat load calculations. And also, as you're selecting equipment, you need to go in to our website and our literature, find the extended performance ratings tables and see, you know, how much cooling capacity or heating capacity that piece of equipment has at your design conditions. Very, very important piece or important step kind of in the whole pre-sales process that a lot of people leave out. They'll just kind of walk up, you know, either see there's a 5-ton already there and they'll replace it with another 5-ton, or they might do the old way, standing on a curb going, that's about a 4-ton, right? So more and more people just need to get used to that heat load software, and there's many different types out there. You know, I used to use RightSoft. I liked it a lot, but there are many other tools out there to do your heat load calculations. Oh, and this is another good point here on the screen. This is that same multi-pro ultra, that 4-ton. Well, that multi-pro ultra 4 tons rated to heat down to -22 degrees. Well, at -22 degrees, our lowest rated temperature there, it's still putting out 38,000 BTUs of heat, 3 tons of heat. So it's pretty amazing what inverter products can do, and specifically what GREE Ultra inverter products can do. I think some other manufacturers may be working on that flash injection technology, but that's technology GREE's had for years and years, and that's why, you know, so often we talk more about the heating side, because no one can beat us on the heating side. So
That's excellent.
A really good information, Justin. I'd just like to also add that you know, this is where we need to be careful if we're installing an ultra system and we just happen, you know, we install another, let's say for instance, I install another brand and my software is set up for that. I need to make sure that I'm using my extended ratings from the equipment that I'm actually installing to see what it's putting out at those lower temperatures and what my design temperature's for. I've seen a lot of the multi-ultra products a little bit oversized due to, you know, just not being familiar with what it will do at the lower temperatures. So,
well, that leads us up to, as we start to close, let's keep those questions coming in before we wrap up. If you remember earlier, I mentioned Rectorseal helping us on a project that I personally did in Ohio. It's an old customer of mine that I installed a mini split system about 12 years ago. And we went back and upgraded with ultra heat technology back in the summer. And it was a project we used kind of a case study to show savings and how the product worked. So, over Christmas time, I live in Ohio. We had some pretty extreme cold weather. A couple before Christmas, it got down to, I think, -7, -8 with wind chills of -30. So I made a trip back to the site, just wanted to see what that would do operating those negative temperatures without backup heat. So we're going to show that, producer.
If it will work in this big old house that's laid out horribly, I can't imagine how efficient and how well it would work in a new construction. I was skeptical. I didn't think it would work, but my mind has changed.
Thinking back, we'd had that really cold winter, that old boiler down there had just sucked the oil.
I asked Dwayne if there would be an alternative to the $15,000 of fuel that we were burning, and he suggested that we put in these units here.
The problem we had, he had such varying loads. You might have a funeral with 20, but then you might have another with 200.
For the doors opening and closing, I couldn't get the cooling out of the units that we had for their size.
And we went from that winter prior burning almost $15,000 in fuel oil. The next winter, you've only burnt 3.
It was a tremendous savings, and the cooling that summer was exactly what we was looking for. We have more than one location, and that's where we started discussing replacing in the other location.
Well, good. Well, maybe let's go in the house now and take a look at how things are laid out.
Okay, we
All
can
right.
do that. Okay, this is the main entrance to the house where we normally had our biggest problem. The door opening and closing, people tend to congregate right here. And it had floor duct with forced air. It would either be too slow to bring it up or too slow to bring it down.
You were like, hey, Dwayne, I want a high wall up here.
Yeah.
You got it. I want a head here.
One back
I don't think we need one over here. And we were going to put it up here. And I said, really, the way this technology works, we don't need to do that. We need to blanket the area.
I was skeptical. I didn't think it would work, but my mind has changed.
So walk up here with me. Remember the day that we hung this console unit here?
I said, that will work.
You said there is no way that's going to take care of this room.
It does.
The louver opens up and it blows air out. It blanketed the load and it constantly kept the units running.
I set these things and I kind of forget them, and they take care of themselves. They work together, and they do a good job.
And so this is a room where people are going to congregate.
There's no heads or consoles in here, and it stays comfortable.
So if you walk on around this way a little bit further, this is the back door of the house where a lot of people come in. So, I suggested we put the high wall up here. And the idea was to fill this space with cool air to pressurize it upstairs. How's that work?
Dwayne, we don't need it. We do not run this head very often. It has to be really hot or really cold outside. I have found that the units on the other side of the house take care of it back here 30 or 40 feet.
Yeah, probably 40 feet.
And around the corner and around the wall.
To keep this in perspective, the boiler that we had downstairs that used to take care of this was a 250,000 BTU oil boiler.
Call that an oil burner. It used to be on their Christmas list.
Yeah, they loved him. After one winter of this, you were like, I love these units, and we went to the chapel.
Yeah.
So let's walk over to the chapel. You wanted a high wall back here, and I said, no, we don't need it. But this side was on that old oil furnace that's still down in the basement. Every time that thing would come on during a service, the minister would be standing up here. You would hear that oil go.
Then we were getting whistling.
We put this 3-ton unit.
Yeah.
You said, Butler, that's as big as a casket that you. I'm like, you said, that's going to be so noisy, they're going to blow everybody out of here.
Not so.
You'll just take and adjust the louvers to throw the air across the house.
I will.
You like it.
It can be full of people, and I can walk in here and just hit and do any adjustment I need, or find some gentleman there in the crowd and hand him this. If I can run it, anybody can.
So now what we've done is this whole chapel is in its own zone.
Mm-hmm. When we're not busy as doing services, either side can maintain the house. If it will work in this big old house that's laid out horribly as far as narrow doors and 100 people dash in and 100 people dash out with the doors open, I can't imagine how efficient and how well they would work in a new construction. And I plan on putting one in my home because I have a relatively new heat pump, but these things here are so much cost effective.
So to recap, what you're telling me is we've drastically reduced the utility cost of what we're doing. We've got a higher level of comfort in the home. You've got redundancy. It automatically modulates up based on the load. And the house is cleaner. We're not going to have the dust.
Yeah, everything you said is true here. The money cost, the efficiency of them is it's crazy.
Bob, hey, thanks so much. Remember when I first came to you and I was going to hang that thing on the wall, and you said, Butler, I'm not sure I want that thing hanging up there on that wall, remember?
Yeah.
And I said, look, if you can't get over it, I'll take it down.
Yeah.
You want me to take them down now?
No. I'd rather have the money.
All right, let's take a little ride today down through the country to show how this product will perform in an extreme condition. As you can see here in Ohio, it's snowy a few days before Christmas. It's -7 degrees Fahrenheit here. As you can see, it's snowy and cold. This is a 5-ton multi-pro installed back in July. See how she's running. No ice in the blades. We're gonna walk in to see how the space is doing today. Oh, it's warm, feels comfortable in here. All the units are running. Okay, let's check out this console unit. Remember, it's -7 degrees outside. Let's see what kind of discharge air we're getting out of this unit. Feels really warm. No, he doesn't have any services or any activities in here today, so he's got it set back a little bit. As you can see, he's got it set on 67. She's 100, right at around 101 degrees and still climbing. And remember now, this is just a straight heat pump, no auxiliary heat. Let's just see where it climbs to at the top end. Still climbing. Looks like it's going to top out right at 107 degree air. Now that's a unit that'll perform. 107 degree discharge air at -7 degrees with wind chill factors of over -20 degrees Fahrenheit. At GREE, we're by your side. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see in the video, this is a product that'll perform. As we start to wrap up today, Daniel, do we have any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, Dwayne. So has the funeral home moved to 100% away from fuel oil?
Yes, they have. So kind of the history of the funeral home. I personally installed the first ductless system there about 11 years ago. And the idea, it wasn't even an ultra heat at the time. It was just a standard heating unit. The idea was to supplement the oil. And after the first winter, as he talked in the video, he had saved so much money just with using that. He had phased the boiler out to just extreme weather. And then with the rise in oil prices again, he decided to totally abandon the oil. They did an environmental search, took the tanks out. He's 100% electric, no oil at any kind, 100% electric. I talked to him, actually. He sent me a note yesterday and said he had saved on his bill this year. He thought somewhere around 40%, and it was still heating and working great. So yeah, no auxiliary heat, no auxiliary heaters. The boiler is totally abandoned. He's 100% electricity now.
That's incredible.
So do we have any other questions?
That's all, Dwayne.
Well, that does it for us today, folks. So thanks for joining. Until next time, talk to your family about GREE, talk to your family and friends about comfort, talk to them about the exciting inverter technology. At GREE, we're by your side. And thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Justin, for taking the time today to talk.
Hey, thanks for watching Talking Comfort Live with GREE HVAC. Make sure to keep a lookout for an invite to our next show, or subscribe to our GREE Comfort YouTube channel to make sure you get notified anytime we release new content.